for serving me. Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi blow. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi blow. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide. Mercy, mercy, the wicked have no mercy. So I gotta stay with a blick of niggas be thirsty. Quicker than the flick of a picture, niggas could murk me. Catch you with your dick in these bitches and do you dirty. But I'm God body, I put that shit on the jersey. No weapon formed against me shall hurt me. Go to war on your turf, I put you under the surface. Mac 10s, Mac 11s, call a nigga Bernie. Open up the chest of a nigga, them bitches burning. Living by the scripture that's written in this discernment. I see that window closing, can't be playing in the curtains. I ain't playing like the circus. I'm a man with a purpose. Can't be laying with the serpents. Keep the squares out your circle. You ain't standing on your word. What kind of man are you? X you out, cross you over. I had to shell guide you. Can't stop a nigga drive the beat. They can't guard you. Hell have no fury compared to what God do. I'm a whole gangster, my nigga, not partial. 38 special. This nigga think he's special. I go ahead depart you. I ain't finna argue. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi blow. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi blow. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide. Look. Nigga, all that shit you saying ain't felt. I don't take you as serious as you take yourself. Niggas steady playing, better play where it's safe. Never know who I'm locked in with around your way. I don't like no bad energy around my space. The label good green, nigga, what's good, you straight. Niggas talking crazy, that's a big mistake. Dreadlock driller, man, it's twisted fate. Had to spin that nigga around like 360 ways. You don't know how I get out fully, I've been on edge. I can't let that slide, don't be that guy. Red Bull gets you, nah, little nigga, they lie. This Desert Eagle gives you wings once I let that bitch fly. This eagle eye vision on this level of mine. Give you an evil eye vision, red beam on the nine. Even I've seen evil eyes still cry. Don't leave an eyewitness on the scene of the crime. Seeing is believing, you ain't seen nothing yet. Switch scenes like the seasons or a scene on the set. You think it's sweet cause you breathe until you see what's next. Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi blow. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi blow. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide.
What's good? What's good? Shalom, shalom. What's cracking? What's cracking? Right? I know we see the title, right? Mount Olympus has crumbled and failed, right? So we what we do here. We getting into these biblical prophecies, matching them up with these current events and what we see and how they playing out, and understanding that we is emphatically living in the times in the book of Revelation, right? So, so yeah, we're gonna bring it out. We're gonna go through, go through some of these things, right? And so yeah, we're gonna see how these different current events is going to play out. Thus said the Lord, right? Because what they doing over there in the Middle East, they going crazy, right? You know, Trump is calling for the nations and stuff to come and help and all that. Even as China, to come help in other countries, so and so it's just crazy, right? And so yeah, so so we're gonna get into it, but of course, first and foremost, giving praises to the Most High God Yahweh, and we do so in His only begotten Son Yahweh Shai, right? Who the world might know as Jesus Christ, right? So we're gonna get right into it. So yeah, first let's start with Revelation 16, right? Let's go to Revelation 16. We're gonna get right into it. Hold on, so lock here real quick. All right. So got that whole let's start at verse. Let's start at verse 12, right? So Revelation 16 and verse 12. So, and it says this, and it says, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up." And, if you're familiar and you watching what's going on, and, we can see that river is indeed drying up, And just like biblical prophecy tells us that it will be dried up for the kings of the east to make their way. And we know the kings of the east is, prophetically speaking of Iran, China, Korea, and so forth, right? And so, and we can see that these things is happening, right? We can look at videos and stuff and see that, it is drying up for various reasons, right? And it says, "And the water thereof was dried up, that was the way of the kings of the east might be prepared," right? And that's what's going on. They're drying up for the way of the east, of the kings can, be prepared. And then you can kind of see, looking at how things was playing out over there in the Strait of Hormuz, and seeing how it all playing out, certain nations are, coming around like, all right, okay, fine, we got to go down there because it's getting ugly. Because the longer this thing stay closed, a lot of countries, economics is getting messed up, and China and Taiwan and stuff, they, a lot of stuff is going on with their economy and stuff because of this. So, Indonesia, a lot of different countries, a lot of South Asian countries is getting affected, by this, right? And then, also, you have the Arab countries and stuff, right? So, they're getting involved with it. So, it's going to bring them out, like the book of Joel says, to the valley of decisions, the valley of Armageddon, Jehoshaphat, right? So, and we can see the makings of that, right? We can see the precursors of how these nations are going to be gathered into that valley for that final battle, right? And we got a good old Donald J. Trump. "Come on, everybody, come on, we need help. They're blocking the strait, folks. They're blocking the strait. I don't know what's wrong with them. I'm still stuck in the water. Need your help." Right? So, it's calling on all nations, right? And then you have a lot of those Arab countries over there that feel like they're not getting as protected as promised through the, protection agreement that they have with the U.S., right? So it's a lot of stuff going on, right? So, back over here. And it says, "And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon. Right? So again, these three unclean spirits is talking about, you know, these demonic spirits that's, working with these world leaders, right? And particularly, one in particular that get on TV, best ratings, biggest parade, right? And it says, frogs came out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. And that's what you do. You turn on your TV and you hear all these propagated lies, right? All this propaganda. We took out their defenses. They're basically obsolete, right? But we need help, folks. We need help. Calling all ships, right? So it's either, which one is it, right? You know what I mean? So, speaking like the false prophet, right? All this propaganda and stuff that they're propagating and making everybody think that everything is cool. They winning. Iran is, kind of, they running with their tails tucked. But yet, they still can't get their butt past that little narrow corridor right there. Right? So, and then, again, all this, other stuff, right? And causing other nations to get involved. That once said a few weeks ago that, we don't want no part of this, right? But now certain nations like, all right, okay, fine, right? We got no choice at this point, right? Then it says, for they are spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth. And that's what happened to their media, primary social media, because he gets on there and he tweets and all that stuff, and he do all this stuff, right? And so they get on TV and they propagate all this stuff and act like, that they're the victors, they're the good guys, everything is going copacetic, nothing to worry, folks, nothing to see here, keep it moving, right? But all along, all hell is breaking loose, right? And it's just smoke and mirrors that we're looking at. So, and it says, for they are spirits or devils, because again, these, like we read in verse 13, 3 unclean spirits. So these unclean spirits, these are, demonic spirits that's working on these, world leaders, that is influencing them and, pushing them further into this battle. Right? And it says, for they are spirits or devils working miracles, going forth into the king. So, and that's what he did, because the way, and it's only through demonic forces that these people are accomplishing the things that they're accomplishing. Because we took Venezuela very easy, folks. It was so amazing how they did it. They never knew what coming, right? We took them, we kidnapped them, all that stuff. We hold them in New York. They're up there. Right? And the whole world was looking like, dang, they just took a whole world leader. Like, just kidnapped them overnight. Like, this is some type of, routine type of stuff. So other world leaders that's, potential enemies or, enemies of this nation and this regime, they like, whoa, So it tells us that, it says, for they are spirits or devils working miracles. So when they see this, the military might and the abilities and the capabilities of how they can execute certain missions and carry out certain things, and so that brings, and with these other nations not having that same capability, that's miraculous to them. You know what I mean? So, and because a lot of times, we take this thing, we make it all practical, because, some people think it's a actual, antichrist, like it's a singular antichrist. It's this one man that's going around doing all this demonic stuff, and we just don't know who he is, but it's just one. But for some reason, the whole world can't figure this guy out, right? But no, it's not so, right? Christ told us that there are many antichrists, right? Antichrist many, right? It was Antichrist in the time of Jesus, right? So Antichrist is just basically anybody that is against the gospel, right? Anybody that is a Christ denier, anybody that is opposed to the scriptures. They are the Antichrist. It's not one singular guy that's going around this working in the shadows and doing stuff and nobody's going to know until the final end. No, it ain't none of that, right? Antichrist many, the scripture tell us. So it says boom boom boom, says working miracles which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to battle of the great day God Almighty. So like I said, so they built up their military. They got the strongest military, folks. Best everything. We got the Trump ship coming. I think that's what he's naming, what he wants to name his battleship, right? So they got, and this is the problem though. This is why they can't get past that little narrow corridor, because you got to understand something. The U.S. Army is built for show and muscle. Just like when you go to those the Olympic competitions, when they be the muscle things and they be flexing and they put the stuff on them and they be glistening paws, right? And they be flexing, right? They be showing their muscles and doing all that stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? Right? They be doing that, right? So that's the U.S. Army. And it started from the Cold War, because the point was to try to build a level of deterrence of Russia and the other nations to make them think, hey, we got all this super crazy technology. We can build this wild, crazy machine. Look at what we just built. We just built a hot dog machine that make perfect hot dogs, right? And just it was just the point of just trying to show Russia and the other nations how technically advanced they are to make them not want to go to war with them. So their battleships and everything is this. It's not made to actually go to a drawn out war and battle. It's made to show force, look intimidating, stand there looking all buff, you know what I'm saying, looking all, but it's not built to actually, and then Iran, these people are such genius, right? You gotta give it to them. Number one, I know I'm ranting, but it's cool. Number one, it's like, all right, these guys, Middle East. Number one, half of the science we use come from these very same people. The mathematics, some of the science and everything come from, these are very capable, smart people. These people, in case you forget, these people are like the original MacGyvers. These people can make incendiary devices out of nothing, right? That's what it's called, IED, improvised explosive device, right? They was messing people up, even though it's a different country, Iraq, different country, but the point that I'm making, that those Arabs over there, they're very smart. They specialize in technology, right? They go to school for tech, right? I remember it's this Arab neighborhood around my way. I go to one of their cell phone stores. This is like several years ago. I'm looking at one of their cell phones. The damn cell phone looked freaking alien, right? And I'm like, what? Like, America needs to step their game up. These phones look like straight alien, right? I'm trying to tell you. So, back over here, right? Before I keep going, because I'm trying to tell you that they ain't as they, because it's not because what we think is, see, war is not about how many people you can unalive. War is about nutrition. Who can survive the longest, right? You don't win by unaliving the most people. You win when that person says, I quit, I give up. You got it. that's when you win. And that's a very, very hard thing for a person to say, especially when they got losses on their side, right? Because a lot of people, most people are looking for revenge. They're looking for that lick back, that get back. That's why war don't end so easily, right? That's why they have to try to create these massive destructive weapons to make a person say, I give up, right? So, because it doesn't end that quick. That's how, then, it's a war of nutrition. And not only that, you have to have will and spirit, right? So, all of that stuff come together. Logistics, all that, right? And right now, their logistics is not looking too good, right? And it's crazy. Then, but back over here. Let's get this real quick. Let's get Thessalonians real quick, everybody. Let's get, I believe it's 1 Thessalonians. Yeah, I think it's, where is it at? I think it's 2 Thessalonians. Boom. So yeah, 1 Thessalonians 5 and let's start at 2. So it says, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so come as a thief in the night. And that's how it's coming. It's coming as a thief in the night. We're not going to know, although we can look on the news and see they going crazy. But, it's liable to calm down for a little bit, then spark right back up again, right? Because, like it tells us in, I believe, what is it, Luke or Matthew, that these are birth pains, right? But, but the end have not, is not ready. It's still on its way. So it says, for perfectly that the day of the Lord so come as a thief in the night. For when they say peace and safety, and that's what's going on. They was talking about peace and safety, right? We're gonna cut a deal, we're gonna make a deal, they're not gonna get a nuclear bomb. Then as they're supposedly be doing their little negotiations, they bombed the people, right? That's what they did, right? Throughout the whole negotiation process, they've been bombing everything, right? But then expect people to come to the table and negotiate. I don't understand. How they say, where they do that at, right? I don't get it. So for when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction should come upon them. And that's what's going on. A lot of times in our peace and safety, we forget about the outside dangers. Because in our bubble, everything is cool, right? But it says, a sudden destruction come upon them as travail upon a woman with a child, and they shall not escape. So just like how, women, that, be pregnant, and they be chilling, then all of a sudden that pain hit them, boom, it's time, the baby's coming, right? So just like that, it's gonna be chilling. All of a sudden, who knows how it might happen? Could hear that siren, you could get alert on your phone or whatever, flash on your TV, seek shelter now, right? Imminent danger. So then, then it says, as a travail upon a woman with child, they shall not escape. So then, and again too, and what these people are finding out over there, what Iraq got over there, because they just realize that these people have the capability of hitting Europe, You know, they done hit that, you know, over there by the island. If you ask me, that was a warning shot. That was them letting them know, hey, we got that. You know, we could have hit the island, but we hit by the island. Just to let you know, we can hit y'all if we needed to. Right? And you gotta understand, these people have been planning for 20 years to go against this to the west. Right? They got mountains over there. They have so many missile silos embedded in those mountains over there. You can't find all those things, right? That's what's giving them problems coming to the strait, because they got stuff embedded along the coastline, right? It's crazy. So they've been planning this stuff out, because, like, again, America is used to fighting asymmetrical wars. These people are not fighting asymmetrical, right? They're going for what they know. They guerrilla warfare in it, right? And they're using America's strengths against them. You know, they're using because the fact that they have these big bulky warships, they can't just maneuver and go through the strait like that, you know. And then, so they got their little Air Force, but they can't get their Air Force over there because the missile defense. It's crazy, right? So they know what they're doing. They in it for the long haul, right? And they operate in cells. So they thought by killing the top leaders of the nation that they did something, but these people operate in cells, right? It's just like that little, what is that, the little snake or the worm thing where you cut pieces off of it and it still grow another piece. That's how they set their whole thing up, because they knew how you people operate, right? They knew, right? And it's crazy. But it says, but ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. So don't be in darkness, because we're reading these prophecies and we understanding how this stuff is playing out. So we're not going to, you know, allow certain things to rock us to sleep and forget what's really going on around this place, right? Let's get 2 Peter 3 and 10 real quick. And to tell us this. Let's start at 9, because we got to understand this. Start at 9. So 2 Peter 3 and 9, it says, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise. And he's not slack concerning his promise, because he promised a lot of stuff. He promised that what he's going to do for his people, and how he's going to, you know, redeem them and set them back on high. Then he also promised how he's going to punish these nations for everything they have done to his people, to destroy them so they can be at a lower state currently, right? And it says this, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men do count slackness. Because we have a problem, because we're constrained to time. You know, we have time. You know, we got your little watch, your clock on your phone, got your little alarm to wake you up in the morning, right? We're constrained to time. We look at progress and we measure it by time, right? So when certain things don't happen in our imaginative time frame, we tend to think that it's not true, that it can't be, right? That it's not going to happen. But like it tells us, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but long suffering to us towards willing, and not willing that any should perish. So God don't really want to have to, what was that Kid and Play song? I ain't gonna hurt nobody. So God really don't want to hurt nobody, right? But he got to do what he got to do, because he got rules, and rules are made to be followed, right? You know how they say rules is made to be broken. Nah, these rules are made to follow or die, right? That's the whole, you know, there ain't no wiggle room around that. You know, either do what the Most High God say do, or perish, right? So it's no choice in the matter, right? If you think you got a choice, then you choose death, right? That's what you chosen when you think you got a choice. The Lord is not slack concerning His promise, as some men count slackness, but long suffering to us work, not willing that any should perish, but should all come to repentance. So He wants His people to repent, right? Because just like our dear brother Paul said, that my prayers and desires is that Israel should be saved, right? That's what Paul said. You know, how everybody try to say he's the apostle to the Gentiles, but, you know, his very own prayer is that Israel should be saved, right? That's a whole nother story. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, right? That's the point right here. That's the point. The day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. That's what it does. Catch you unaware, right? And you're not knowing what's going on. And even in our own personal lives, when hell break out and storms and all that stuff, how they want to call it, trouble, right, in your life, when it happens, a lot of times it come unaware. When you're at your most peaceful, calmest moment in your life, everything seems like it's just falling into play. Then all of a sudden, here come, you know, horrendous tragedies of various, you know, sources, right? So it happens because the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise. That's talking about them ICBMs, them thermonuclear missiles that they got with them nuclear warheads attached to it, right? And the heavens will pass away because, that's, like I said, those mushroom clouds are going to be covering everything, right? With a great noise. You know, because when they explode, it's going to explode with the power of, you know, 100, you know, ton TNT blast, right? These things go megatons, right? Way stronger than the stuff that happened in Hiroshima. And it says, shall pass away with great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. And the earth also, in the works that therein shall be burnt up. So, and only thing that's hot enough to disintegrate and melt things to the core, to the element, is nuclear fusion, is a nuclear explosion, right? That is what can cause these things, and that is what's going to cause these things, right? Back over here. And it says, behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watches and keep his garment. Right? And that's why we have to watch and keep our garments. So Revelation 16 and 15. So that's why we have to pay attention, because we just read, seeing that we know that the day of the Lord is like a thief in the night, and the elements and everything shall burn like ferment of heat, you know, paraphrasing. We have to be watchful and understand prophecy and see where we at in this thing. Don't get rocked to sleep with these little fake religions and their fake, you know, teachings and putting everybody to sleep. So, you know, because they trying to fatten their pockets. They trying to make sure they survive the apocalypse. They ain't worried about you. You think they worried about you? They ain't worried about you. Right? They know what's coming. So they trying to fatten up their pockets to survive. Right? What did it tell you? In the last days, Satan, you know, gonna, you know, be in fury, right? And that's what these demonic people is on. It's like a grab, get money scheme before this whole thing shut down, right? They think they can save themselves with their wealth, right? And they do it off of poor people and their misunderstanding of certain things. And it says, keep his garment lest he walk naked, and they shall see his shame. So again, you don't want to get caught slipping. You don't want to, you know, get, you know, weak in this thing to the point where you be like, all right, well, you know, it's just business as usual. He ain't never coming back, man. These people, man, you know, nobody gonna ever stop them. They gonna do whatever they want to do, and we just gonna be this, right? What is what did Uncle Ruckus say on Boondocks when he came to the realization about him being black. He like, we just niggas, man. That's all we ever gonna be is niggas. We just niggas, right? There's nothing we can do, right? So you don't want to be that guy. Don't be that guy, right? So it says, and keep his garment, lest he walk in shame, as they see his, and they should see his shame. So you want to endure to the end, like Christ said. He that endures to the end, the same shall be saved, right? So you want to be that guy. You want to be that guy, right? That endures to the end, and the same shall be saved, right? And it says, that's good. That's good. Hold up. So yeah, let's get this. Matthew 24 and 39. We can start there. No, let's start at 37. Let's start at 36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man. So, and that's what we got to understand. This is the words of Christ. Because you have a lot of these little pastors, particularly those Nigerian pastors, or I ain't going to put it on Nigeria. I'm going to put it on the whole continent of Africa. Them African pastors, right? So, oftentimes be tricking people and stealing their money, acting like they know when the end of the world going to come, right? So, and it says, but of that day and hour no man know not, right? So no man knows what day and hour this is going to happen, right? But that's why Christ tells us to watch and pay attention to prophecy. That's why it also tells us that the Spirit of Christ is prophecy, right? Then it says, not the angels of heaven. So not even the angels in heaven knows when this great day is going to happen and when Christ is going to come back and crack the sky with the millions of angels with him. 200,000, right? 200 million, matter of fact, to let everybody know, right? So not even the angels know these things. And it says, but my Father only. So only the Most High God Yahweh knows the exact time when all of this is going to come out and when it's going to happen. We can see the precursors and things leading up to it, but we don't know what's going to be the final straw that breaks the camel's back, right? It says, but as the day of Noah were, so as also the coming of Son of Man be. So the same way as it was in the days of Noah, so also should the Son of Man be. So that's why we have to understand, this thing could go crazy, then it could calm down, then everybody's back chilling again, right? It has been known to do that throughout these last 3 or 4 years. Whether it's Russia, Ukraine, or over here in the Middle East, everything been, as a little kid say, 6-7. Everything been up and down, right? So, and we have to understand, right? So, it could, but at the same time, we always have to keep our eyes open, because it tells us, but as the day of Noah were, so shall the coming of Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking. So before, as Noah kept telling everybody, hey, it's going to rain, it's going to be like not regular rain, like, you might want to roll with me on this one, right? And come on up in this ark and be saved. But everybody like, what you talking about? You know what I'm saying? So, but everybody's just living their life, acting like everything is cool. right? I was talking to this person. They in a Donald Trump. Well, I say they. I am. And don't ask me how I got involved in this Donald Trump Facebook group thing. It's crazy. I got tricked into it. But since I'm there, I'm spying, right? I'm spying. So, I'm over there, right? So, and I bring up the fact that how America is not going to make it out of this thing. And, and they basically call me negative. So, and, I'm looking at it, right? And I'm looking at it like these people, his followers are really dumb, deaf, and blind. They following them, and they don't understand that ain't no way out, right? You ain't making it out of this one. But as the day of Noah, so shall also the coming of Son of Man be. So as these people are delusional and feeding into the propaganda of America the Great, they're not seeing the sudden destruction that's going to come upon this place, right? They looking at it like we is who we say we are, and we always going to be that, right? But it says, for as in the days of Noah were, before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, right? So, and that's what people don't understand. When that day come, and there's no more, and repentance is closed. The altar is closed. It's going to be too late, right? And everybody's going to just not know until they know. Like, what's when they say, if you know, you know. And knew not until the flood came and took them away. So shall also the coming of Son of Man be, right? So, and that's what we gotta understand. When this thing jump off, again, it can calm down, right? It can, but then it can rev back up again. And every time it revs back up again, it's way worse than it was before. Because everybody thought this stuff was just going to just calm down. I told people from the time of the whole COVID epidemic, I'm like, we waiting for things to go back to normal. I'm like, nothing ever is going to be the same, right? It's not going to ever go back normal. We would never see normal again, right? We'll never see normal again until the Black, Hispanic, and Native American people was ruling this planet, just like how Jesus would have wanted it, right? Under him as our king, and Yahweh as our God, our power, right? So that's how the world is going to get back in order, and how it's supposed to be ran according to the Most High God, and how he instructed this planet to be ran under our rulership, under our King Christ, right? That's what he wanted. So it ain't gonna never ever get like that until that happens. And fortunately, it's on its way, right? So back over here. And he gathered, verse 16, and he gathered them together into a place called, in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon. And that's what he's doing. He's gathered them into that valley. They're all trying to slowly but surely going to make their way down to the Middle East. Because I need help, folks. I need help. These Iranians are a little more tougher than I thought. A little more tougher. They're a little more tough. So I need some help, folks. So, and he's calling all everybody, right? So he's calling people in, right? A lot of these countries were reluctant to help, and but they're gonna have to help because it's gonna be messed up. Then as they're helping, they're gonna realize that the Americans, they are the problem, right? We have to do something about the Americans, right? And they're going to realize this, right? And we're going to see, and we're going to read it. Thus saith the Lord. And it says this. And he gathered them into the place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, right? All right, let's get this real quick. Okay, hold up. Eat that, boom, boom, boom. Let's get let's see, do I want this one? Let's get okay, no. Alright, so let's get boom boom boom. Let's get I think I want let's get Matthew 20 Matthew 12 and 26. And it says, and as Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. And that's what's going on here. NATO, the EU is divided against themselves on how they want to proceed. Hold on. So they are divided on how they want to proceed, in this matter, right? And a lot of countries, have different viewpoints on how they want to operate and go forth, right? And it says if Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. And that's what been going on, since he's been back in office. He's been ridiculing NATO and, and threatened to break it up and all that stuff, right? And it says, how shall then the kingdom stand? And that's why this place is going to fall, because it is divided and it will not stand. And it says, if Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. And that's exactly what they are, very divided. How should his kingdom stand, right? It's going to fall. And we're watching a slow decline of it. Because people got to understand, empires don't fall, like a light switch. Oftentimes it's decades, of dissension that leads into, and decline. It's policies and decades of policies and stuff that lead into decline, right? And we right at the cusp of the breaking point. So back over here. And it says, and the seventh angel poured out his vial unto the air, and there came great voice out of the temple of heaven and from the throne, saying, it is done. So, talking about once this whole everything come out, and they finally pushed that button and they destroy this whole everything, and Christ come back, that is, his whole plan is being fulfilled. And as his plan is unraveling and being fulfilled, he's like, it is done, right? And it says, and it's done. And there were voices and thunder and lightning, and there was great earthquakes, such as there was not since men were upon earth. So that's when they start dropping those nuclear thingy things. Everything is dropping, right? The sky is literally falling. So they is dropping, as Dylon say, hot fire. They dropping hot fire from the sky, right? In the form of these ICBM nuclear bombs that they got, right? And it says, and there were voices and thunder and the lightning, and there were great earthquakes, such as there was not since men were upon earth, so mighty a earthquake, even so great. And the great city was divided into three parts. So again, when they finally hit this place, because a lot of people think they can't hit this place, because we got the Platinum Dome, folks, the Platinum Dome, which is a piece of garbage, and it's not defending nothing, right? These people, Iran has very uniquely and smartly developed the cluster bomb to defeat their missile defense systems, right? So it's like you have your missile defense systems, but you have to shoot out. You can't even. The warhead is hitting in the midst of these decoy, missiles, warheads also. So you're shooting your missiles to block it, but you're not hitting nothing. And then the real warhead is zigzagging and doing all this cool stuff through the midst of it and hitting its target, right? Very, very, intuitive and very, inventive and engineering and all that stuff. I made up that last word. That's what they do, right? And it says, and the great city was divided into three parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came into remembrance before God, to give her the cup of wine of his fierce wrath. And that's what's going on. So as these wars is going on and escalating and all that, God is going to remember, like, hey, what was I supposed to do again? Oh yeah, destroy Babylon. Oh yeah, put the spirit on them angels to tell them angels to, put the spirit on them people to push that button. I forgot. Hey, what was I? Oh yeah, that's right. Right? So it says, Babylon came in the remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of wine of the fierceness of his wrath. And every island fled away, and the mountains were found not. Right? So, gonna utterly destroy this place, right? Because these bombs is gonna let off, and every little, it's jacked up, sad to say, right? And it says, and there fell upon men great hail out of heaven, every stone about a weight of a talent. And man blasphemed God, and because of the plague of hail, for the plague therefore was exceedingly great. So instead of people repenting in that time and trying to get their stuff right, because you still got a chance before them bombs drop. You know what I'm saying? But people gonna see all this war and all this hell stuff and all this natural disasters going on, superstorms and stuff. Instead of them like, I need to give my life to, I need to give my life to Jesus, right? Instead of saying that, they gonna be like, I want to give my life to God, but I gotta get this money first. Instead of just repenting and understanding that God is doing these things, right? And you have to come back to the Most High God, or you will die in the land of your captivity. Black, Hispanic, and Native person, right? You gotta understand that, right? Let's jump over to chapter 18 real quick, right? Let's go to verse. Let's start at verse 2. So, Revelation 18 and 2. It says, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen. And that's what's going on. This place is falling. It is breaking down, right? Internally, spiritually, right? Literally, this thing is breaking. Babylon is fallen. Babylon the Great is fallen. It is fallen. It has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Right? And that's what happens in this place. That's what resides here. All demonic and evil spirits reside in this place. Right? That's why this place propagate through the entertainment, the media, through all various ways, demonic, you know, sensory and all that stuff to people, right? And so, and it says, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth were waxed rich to the abundance of her delicacies. So a lot of these nations and countries had dealt, you know, with this nation, and they got rich, you know, dealing with them, right? And a lot of these nations got rich dealing with them off the back of the brown, Hispanic, and Native American man, right? And continue to make money off of us, right? And it says, I heard a voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sin. Because God wants his people to separate spiritually, mentally from this place. Because the way this place is going and heading, you know, it's headed for self-destruction. Headed for self-destruction. Right? It's going down. It's going down the road of perdition. Right? And you don't want to be traveling along that road with them. Right? You want to be like, in this instance, I know sometimes we make fun of Trey, but in this instance, you want to be like Trey and get out the car and be like, hey, Doe, let me out. Right? Doe, open up the door. Let me out. Right? Because you don't want to be traveling on a road to perdition with this nation. Because you will suffer the consequences that is placed on this nation from the Most High God. Because it says, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sin, and that ye are received not of her plagues. So everything that is pronounced that happened to this place, very horrible. You know, might I add. You don't want to be part of that, right? And God is telling you, yo, you don't want to be a part of this. Yo, you might want to get up out of here before it get ugly, right? And it's going to get ugly. And God is telling us spiritually, mentally, get up out of here. Because you're about to see something that's going to make it hard for you to smile. Right? So, you might want to take that get out of jail free card. That, you know, I holler at you. I'll see you next time, you know. Like when, in Juice, when Q was in the little diner thing. And the old boy was about to rob the joint, and he asked you, "Hey, you want some of this?" He like, "No, you got it." And he left up out of there, right? We gotta be like Q, and be like, "Nah, you got it," right? Because it's telling us, it says, "Be not partakers of her sins, and that ye are received not of her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven." And God has remembered her iniquities. So God have not forgot about this place. He knows exactly the evils that this place have done. And he will repay them back. It's no, you know, if, ands, or buts about it. He will, right? It ain't no, well, you know, maybe, you know, nah. He doesn't forget, right? And you will, and he will, and they will pay. And it says, reward her even as she had rewarded you, and double unto her according to her works. So God is going to replay this place back according to what they have done to the earth. And not only is he going to repay them back, he's going to double it, right? He's going to double the punishment that they have done. So he's going to double the punishment that they have done, right? And it says, how much is she have glorified herself and lived deliciously? And that's what this place have done. They lived deliciously off the backs of the black, Hispanic, and Native American people, right? Through slavery. These people made $4.7 trillion off of free labor, because of us, right? And counting, right? That's just what they decided to write down on a piece of paper, 4.7 trillion. But we know they still making money off of us to this day, right? And it says, how much has she glorified herself and lived deliciously? So much torment and sorrow give her. So as much pain and destruction and hell they have caused throughout all the world, the Most High God says, also give unto her, right? They're going to have to suffer these things as well, right? You cannot do the things that they have done on this planet and believe in a just God and think that nothing is going to happen to them, right? That doesn't go together. How they say that math is not mathing, And it says, how much has she glorified herself and lived deliciously? So much torment and sorrow give her. So they're going to have to pay for everything, they live lavishly in all these nations that they conquered and went to and unalive the native and inhabitants of those places, right? They live deliciously off the blood of the people of these lands that they're at, right? There's no nation where you can think that when you close your eyes and you think about Esau and Edomites and you think about where they be at, no nation you can think of in your head that they did not viciously unalive those people and took it over and called themselves those same people that they erased from the planet, right? That's what they did. And it's telling us over here how much she have glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she said in her heart, I sit as a queen. And that's what these people think. That they sit as a queen. Everybody got to bow down and do what they say. Right? But, Iran and the rest of them, like, no, we ain't rolling like that. We didn't get the memo. We don't, that's not how we do it over here. Right? And I sit as a queen and am no widow and shall see no sorrow. So, and that's the attitude of this place. They think they can just go to war, go to battle and defeat anybody. Don't have to, they would never suffer, major losses. That's why they spend so much money on their technology to try to, on their air defense and all that stuff and air capabilities. So they won't have to send in ground troops and all that stuff. But now they're talking about the possibility of sending in ground troops into little Iran. We can take it in a few days. I don't know what the problem is. Right? So they want to send in troops now. Right? And it says, I sit as a queen and am no widow and shall see no sorrow. Right? And that's what they think. They think that nothing bad is going to come to them. They think they're just going to just land on top. They like that cat. You take the cat, you turn the cat upside down and you drop it. And the cat land on his feet. Right? They think that's just how they're going to do it. Right? I'm not saying you should grab a cat and turn it upside down and drop it. Don't do that. Not promoting that. But that's what they think. Right? And it says, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall utterly be burned with fire. Right? And that's the problem right there. In one day, because these countries have these missiles that can travel and hit this thing, right? And mess up the whole world in one day. China missile can come here, think, what is it? 40, I know Russia missile will take about 45 minutes to get here. I think China missile can hit anywhere in Europe, or over here too within 35 minutes because they got them hypersonic things, right? So it's crazy. So when they tell you that, when the Bible says that this place can be taken down in 1 hour, it's believable because these missiles only take about less than 45 minutes to reach from that side of the world to this side of the world. Then once this side of the world understand what's going on, you got anywhere between 3 to 15 minutes to figure out, right? 15 minutes is on the upside. That's if they really on it, right? But really, most likely, more realistically, 3 minutes to understand and to let everybody know what's going on. So then that means by the time you actually find out, you probably got about 30 seconds to a minute to find shelter and do something. Because they're going to spend about a good minute and a half conversing amongst themselves, shooting ideas out on what to do. And then they're going to make the call, and then it's going to go out, right? So, it's crazy. Because even, too, like, I was looking at a video earlier that's talking about, like, how they got the sirens and stuff over there in Israel. And they were saying, like, yeah, usually, we hear the sirens, then, like, 10 minutes later, then the missiles, the bombs and stuff will come, right? You're like, but now we're hearing sirens and stuff is blowing up along with the sirens. So the response time is getting shortened, right? And there, so the ability to respond and react is getting shortened, right? And we can understand that. And it says over here, where that? Boom, boom, boom. So therefore, her plague shall come in one day, death and mourning and a famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire, for strong is the Lord who judges her. Right? And that's the judgment for this place, to be burnt with fire, right? All hell to be break loose. That is the final plague, of this place, right? And it says, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. So again, a lot of these nations, depend on America's, right? Because America support a lot of nations. I think America feeds like over 60 to 70% of, nations around the world. So if America falls, that will be very devastating for a lot of, countries that depend on this place, right? And then, so it's crazy. It's going to mess up a lot of stuff. It says, standing far off for the fear of her torment, saying, at last, great city Babylon, the mighty city, for 1 hour thy judgment come. Because again, in 1 hour thy judgment come. And this is our dear brother John, the Revelator, prophesying and writing this stuff. So how did he foresee that China and Russia got these intercontinental and these hypersonic missiles that can travel the length of the globe within 35 to 45 minutes, right? How do you know these things, right? Only a man of God can know that, right? And we're living in this book right here that we call Revelation. And we can see that we have hypersonic ballistic missiles that is very undetectable. There's nothing you can do. The Platinum Dome is not going to do anything with these hypersonic missiles. And they know that. Because with the hypersonic missiles, again, they got about 3 minutes to figure out what to do once they see it. Then within that 3 minutes, they're going to have to warn the people on what to do. So, how much of that 3 minutes you think is going to be dedicated to telling the people? You probably maybe get a minute, maybe a minute and a half, because again, they're going to have to, you know, litigate amongst themselves on what's happening and what to do. So, it's crazy, right? You got to keep that in mind. And it says, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man shall buy neither buy their merchandise anymore. So again, a lot of these countries that depend on America for their you know livelihood is going to be messed up in that day. And it says for boom boom boom, and it says the merchants of the gold and the silver and the precious stones and the pearls and the fine linen and purple and silver, purple and silk and the scarlet and all dye wood and all manners of vessel of ivory and all manners of vessel of precious wood and brass and iron and marble. So just talking about the prestigeness of this place, right? And everything that's going to be missed, once this place is gone from those nations that is so intertwined with this place, right? So let's jump down to let's go to verse 20, Revelation 18 and 20, and it says, "Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her." And that's the thing. That's what we have to understand and look at this whole shebang, guys. When we turn on the news and see them going crazy in the Middle East and Trump is stuck in the water, folks. We're stuck in the water. And you can't get past a little straight and see all these other nations and all this stuff. The fact that it's over 56 global conflicts around the world, not including the ones we see on TV, right? Understanding that, we gotta understand for God have avenged you on her. So this is God exacting his vengeance on these nations and particularly, Babylon, mystery Babylon, for everything that they have done to his people, right? And it says, a mighty angel took up a stone, like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, sand. Thus with violence shall that great city of Babylon be thrown down. So this angel's throwing, this angel is prophesying and throwing that final brick, that final stone to crush this place, right? And it's saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon shall be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all, right? And that's what's going to happen when this place is eviscerated and eradicated and never to be visitated, right? And in that great day when this whole World War III come to a full, climax, right? We're gonna, hopefully we ain't here to be here, meaning, that salvation thing. But we're gonna understand in that day that the Most High God said what he said, and he did exactly what he said he's gonna do, right? Because it says, a mighty angel took up a stone with a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more, right? This place is going to be utterly destroyed when this whole thing is said and done. But and let's see how, because it says thus with violence, right? So let's get Revelation 17 verse 10. And hold up. Let's get verse 11. And it says, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, and is the seven going into perdition. Right? So we're gonna focus on that seven. That seven is talking about America. The eighth is Russia, and they're gonna get jacked up too. You can read about it in the same book right here. Right? But we ain't talking about Russia right now. We're talking about the seventh. So it says, and the seven should go into perdition. And that's what's going to happen to this place. They're going to go into perdition. You know, they're not even going to make it all the way to the end of this whole thing, right? And they're going to be going into perdition. This battle that they call World War III is going to destroy these people. It's going to be their tomb. They will not return after this, right? It will not be Return of the Mac after this one, because and the seven is of the seven, and go into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou saw, the 10 kings which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as king 1 hour with the beast. So these NATO members, these EU members that's, joint with this beast that we know America. Joint with this woman, this whore that we know as America. So because they align themselves, with America, with NATO, they have that protection. So, it says that they're kings, but they have no power yet. Meaning, it's just like, all right, for example, right? Just use this for example. Say like a person is best friends with the high school bully, right? So that person who is best friends with the high school bully, they may attend to go around and, do and try to act like how the bully act, right? And then whenever they get into some trouble, they know they're best friends with the high school bully. So nobody might not mess with them because they know they're connected to the high school bully. So that's how these other nations, you can look at it like that, right? When it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest that are 10 kings which have received no kingdom, and yet but receive power as kings 1 hour. But they can be friends. They can be friends with the high school bully, and because of with that guy, they can receive that same respect or power and reverence, right? And so it says, and these have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast, right? And that's what they have done when they constructed this thing called NATO, this thing called EU. They said, okay, we're going to come together, we're going to put our resources together, we're going to, treat this like the YMCA, we're going to pay our membership fee, and we're going to keep this thing going, right? But we can see when we turn on the TV that this thing is starting to fade and to break, because a lot of them is not true to this. You got those friends that, everybody got certain people that they know that they can go to battle with, and certain people that they know they can't go to battle with. Like, all right, I can't go to battle with this person because I know if something jump off, they gonna run, they gonna leave me for myself. So we can't, be anywhere, hang out anywhere where it's potential danger, because I can't trust them with my life. So we got friends like that. Then you got those friends that you can go to battle with, that y'all can go back to back like Double Dragon and take on the world, right? So it says this over here. It says, and these have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. And that's what they have done. And it says, and shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For the Lord of the, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called chosen and faithful. Right. So when Christ come back, because again, these people is going to, make war with the Lamb, right? They're going to try to make war with God's people because they're stupid, they're dumb, right? The same reason why when we have that TV show When Animals Attack end up being so popular, because I mean they're stupid, they're dumb, right? So of course they're going to try to attack Jesus Christ. Why would they not? You know. So it says, and he shall be unto me. Hold on. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are people and multitudes and nations. So again, America is being referred to as the whore that sit on many waters, because we read earlier in the chapter about this whore that sit on many waters and all that. And we know that America sits on many waters because they have over 750 something military bases all over the world, 165 or 170 military garrisons all over the world. So, and then they influence other nations, right? They're trying to force these people to open up the straits. You know, they calling all the other nations to come help them, right? They went to Venezuela, kidnapped people, right? They talking about, maybe I like Cuba too, right? Cuba is cool, right? Cuba's a guy, they what they got? Cuba's a guys down there, we love them, right? Think about taking Cuba, right? So it says, and these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overtake them. Boom, boom, boom. It says, oh, okay, I read that. It says, and he that said unto me, the waters thou saw where the whore sitteth are people and multitudes and nations and tongues. So again, their presence is global, you know, all over the nation, you know, and they influence all these different nations through their policies and stuff. So then it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. So eventually, so we see the precursors, because at first NATO wasn't, you know, they're like, no, we ain't going down there with you. You know, this is your fight. You know, we had nothing to do with it. You know, and a lot of those countries are still on that with them, right? Then you have a few countries that kind of cave and be like, all right, okay, I'm going to help. But for the most part, and it's definitely going to come, and we need to look out for this. And it says, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked. So like I said, so they gonna, you know, eventually they're gonna, and we see it now, it's no eventually. We see it now that these nations are speaking badly of America. You know, they're, you know, speaking, you know, talking reckless towards America, and they despise how they've been moving. And it says, and these shall hate the whore, and make her desolate and naked. And that's what they're going to do. They're starting to expose this place, right? And they're, you know, they're pulling back their resources and their aid, you know, their military bodies to, you know, perhaps help them and all that. Like, nah, we ain't going to help you on this one, right? And it says, and make her desolate and naked. So, you know, exposing her, you know, exposing them for their hypocrisy and their war mongering and, you know, their bullying mentality, right? How they're just, you know, ruling this, even ruling NATO with, you know, with a fist of oppression, right? Not only are they ruling the world with oppression, they are coming at NATO with the oppression as well. So it says, these shall hate the whore, and make her desolate and naked, and eat her flesh. And that's what they're going to do, because they're going to end up going to war with America, right? Because they're going to realize that is the alternative. We need to go to war with these people. That's the only way we can stop them. It says, and eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So that's how, when it says over here, jumping up to 18 and 21, and a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down. So that's how this place is going to be thrown down, with violence. Because it says over here, they shall make her desolate and naked, and eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. Right? And that's those thermonuclear bombs that these other nations got as well. Right? And they're going to end up turning on this place eventually, because they're going to see that it's no profit in falling behind these people that has been getting them into war after war. Right? They're going to think they're going to realize it's better to be with Russia and the BRICS and follow their new world order. They're going to realize that it's something better than the petrodollar. Like, hey, well, this is a great idea. We don't need the petrodollar. Forget them people, right? So, it's crazy like that. And it says, for God has put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. So like I said, so they're gonna come together, and they're gonna put their heads together, and they're gonna destroy this place, right? Because God is gonna put it on their heart to do so. Because just like we can read, and I believe it's in, I want to say Ezekiel, or it could be Isaiah, but when God speaks on these people, it talk about how they don't hate violence, they don't hate blood, and because they don't hate blood, he's going to, make them drink their own blood, essentially make them fight against themselves. So that's what we're seeing when these European nations is going against themselves, right? Russia and, down there in the Middle East, right? Because a lot of them people, let the truth be told, is Turkish, right? Some of them is Arabs, I ain't gonna front. Some of them are probably real Arabs, but a lot of them is Turkish, right? So just some dark-skinned white people. So to let the truth be told. But it says, for God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree to give the kingdom to the beast, until the words of the Lord shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is the great city which reign over the kings of the earth, which is this place. They reign over the kings of the earth, because again, they have the tendency to influence policies and decide who's going to go into office in a whole nother country, right? They do that, right? They decide who they're going to put in office in a whole nother government. That's what they do, right? So in a lot of countries are getting fed up with it, and that's why it's going to come to a screeching halt, right? It's going to come to a screeching halt, and the whole world is going to witness it. A lot of people are going to be sad at it, but hopefully a lot of y'all get over it, right? Because it's going to happen, right? Because it tells us over here, and a mighty angel took up a stone, Revelation 18:21. Took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall this great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more. That is the judgment for this great place called America, right? You gotta understand that. So we watching this stuff. We see how it all playing out in the 3D world. Well, we also know how God prescribes it spiritually, right, in the playbook, and how it's going to go down. So we have to keep the faith, keep the commandments, in the Mashiach Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus Christ. Endure to the end. That way we can be saved, because all hell is going to break loose and is breaking loose. So to get that cover, get that, comfort, keep the faith in the commandments, right? Until next time. Shalom, peace. We out.